The cold wind rolled off the Atlantic, sweeping over the marshes of Gilgo Beach like a whisper from the dead. On December 11, 2010, a Suffolk County officer and his cadaver dog were supposed to be searching for Shannon Gilbert, a missing escort from Jersey City. Instead, they found something else, a burlap sack with the skeletal remains of a woman buried in the thick brush near Ocean Parkway. Then another, and another, and another. 4 women, all wrapped in burlap, all escorts, all young, all small, all disappeared between 2007 and 2010. None of them were Shannon. The media called them the Gilgo Four. That discovery shattered the illusion of safety that hung over Long Island like sea mist. Police had stumbled onto a graveyard, but who had put them there? Years before those bodies were found, the sound of desperation echoed through a 911 call placed by Shannon Gilbert herself. She was hysterical, running barefoot, screaming, "They're trying to kill me." She banged on doors in Oak Beach in the early hours of May 1, 2010, but no one helped. No one believed her. She vanished into the marshes that night. It would take over a year before her body was discovered, separated from the rest. The official story claimed she drowned, but her mother never believed that. Most people didn't. Even in death, Shannon was different. She wasn't one of the 4. She wasn't wrapped. She was farther east, and yet she had led police to the others, almost like she had come back to expose the darkness hiding in the sand. That discovery opened the door, but what it revealed was not just one killer. It was something worse, someone methodical, someone who hunted on the edge of civilization and vanished before the screams could carry. After the Gilgo Four were found, the search expanded. Winter winds tore across the dunes as investigators picked through the overgrowth with rakes and cadaver dogs. That's when the true horror unfolded. 6 more bodies, scattered across a stretch of Ocean Parkway like forgotten warnings. Some had been missing for decades. A toddler, a dismembered torso, a man dressed in women's clothing. Not all were wrapped in burlap. Not all were escorts. Not all fit a profile. But they all ended up here. It was chaos. Too many victims. Too many timelines. No single pattern. Police couldn't say if it was one killer or several. But one thing was clear. Gilgo Beach had become a graveyard. The killer, if it was one, was organized. He knew how to hide bodies where no one would look. He picked victims that might not be reported missing. And he waited. Years between kills. Or maybe he never stopped, just got better at hiding. Then came the phone calls. One victim, Melissa Barthelemy, disappeared in 2009. Days after she vanished, her teenage sister began receiving phone calls from Melissa's phone. The voice on the other end was calm, almost amused. He called her names, told her Melissa was dead, laughed as her sister cried. The calls were traced to crowded places in Manhattan. Never the same spot twice. Never long enough to catch him. He wanted to be heard, but not found. By 2011, people began to suspect what law enforcement feared. This wasn't random. It was calculated. And whoever was behind it was watching. The killer, whoever he was, seemed to build a puzzle out of his victims. Police scoured cell records, tower pings, GPS logs. They followed leads into dead ends, suspected a former cop, a disgraced doctor, even a neighbor. None of it stuck. Years passed. The case turned cold. Families of the victims faded from the headlines, left clinging to memory and suspicion. But one woman wouldn't let go, Mari Gilbert, Shannon's mother. She refused to accept the drowning story. She hired her own investigators. She held rallies. She screamed until someone listened. Then she was murdered and stabbed to death in 2016 by another daughter suffering from schizophrenia. A tragic end. Or a silencing? Some say Mari got too close, that someone didn't want her pulling on the wrong thread. Meanwhile, the killer stayed silent. But silence doesn't mean absence. In 2020, a belt was released to the public found near one of the dump sites, embossed with 2 initials, WH or HM. A clue? Or a distraction? The belt had been kept secret for years. Why release it now? That's the thing with killers like this. They plan. They adapt. They don't just dump bodies. They sculpt stories. Every item is placed. Every message carefully constructed. The burlap. The cell calls. The spacing. Even the locations just out of sight, but close enough to civilization to mock it. The killer didn't just want to murder. He wanted to stage a performance. The Oak Beach community is a strange place, gated, isolated, full of old beach houses and secrets. Some residents remember the night Shannon Gilbert ran through the neighborhood, banging on doors, begging for help. But their stories don't match. Some say she was on drugs. Others claim she was being chased. Some said she seemed paranoid, others terrified. But one name keeps coming up, Joseph Brewer, the man who hired Shannon that night. He said nothing happened, that she freaked out for no reason, that she ran into the dark and never came back. But the timeline didn't add up. His story changed, and a local doctor, Peter Hackett, claimed he spoke to Shannon, that she called him, then, later, denied it, then, later, admitted it again. In a place as small as Oak Beach, everyone knows everyone. Everyone protects their own. What if the killer didn't just live nearby? What if he was a neighbor? Someone trusted. Someone who watched from a porch light as police walked right past his secrets. A local with access, with knowledge and time. In that kind of place, monsters don't need to hide in the shadows. They sit beside you at the bar. They wave to you in the morning. They call you by name. Years passed. No arrests. No answers. The case faded, buried under the weight of other tragedies, until 2022. A new task force, new DNA technology, and finally, a name, Rex Heuermann, an architect from Massapequa Park. Married, 2 kids, quiet, average, but inside his storage units? A horror show, burner phones, internet searches like how to restrain a woman and body decomposition timeline, maps of Gilgo Beach, hair from at least one victim found in his home. He was arrested in July 2023, a man with no criminal record, no suspicion, just a face in the crowd. He fit the profile almost too perfectly, but even with the arrest, something doesn't sit right. Some bodies don't match his timeline. Some victims were found years before he moved to the area. The toddler, the man, the dismembered remains. Shannon, was Heuermann the only killer? Or just the most recent? The arrest of Rex Heuermann was supposed to bring peace, closure, an end to the nightmare. But the moment his name hit the news, a new storm began, because the numbers don't add up. 11 sets of remains were found along Ocean Parkway. Heuermann is charged in connection with 4. What about the others? Jessica Taylor, her torso was found in Manorville in 2003. Her skull and hands were later discovered near Gilgo. Valerie Mack, same pattern. Dismembered, scattered. A toddler girl, a woman known only as Peaches, with a tattoo of fruit on her breast. A man dressed as a woman. And, of course, Shannon Gilbert. None of these victims match Heuermann's known methods. Different dump sites, different handling, different years. So who left them? Some believe there were 2 killers working at different times, unaware of each other. Others think one killer evolved over time, grew colder, more refined, that Heuermann's early work was messy, unorganized. But others whisper about something worse, that Gilgo Beach became a dumping ground, a place known in the dark corners of the internet, shared among predators, a location passed in shadows, no cameras, no patrols, quiet dunes, a serial killer's paradise. It's not just the bodies that haunt the sand, it's the idea that this was never one man's secret. It was a ritual site, a message board of the damned, a place where evil left its footprints, and the tide kept washing them away. Even now, Shannon Gilbert's story lingers like fog over the wetlands. Her final 911 call was 23 minutes long. She begged for help, repeated she was being chased. But her words were fragmented, lost in wind, panic, fear. Police waited over a decade to release that tape. When they did, it raised more questions than it answered. Why did she say they're trying to kill me if she was just disoriented? Why did two different residents, Brewer and Hackett, give conflicting stories? Why did it take police an hour to respond, despite her desperate cries? When her remains were found in December 2011, a half-mile from the others, the cause of death was listed as undetermined. The official theory? She drowned in the marsh, but her bones were scattered, her clothes missing, her hyoid bone, part of the throat, was damaged. Her family hired an independent coroner, who concluded she may have been strangled. Still, police stuck to the drowning story. Shannon led them to the others. Without her disappearance, the Gilgo Four may never have been found, yet she was excluded from their group, labeled an accident, set aside. But she's the one who ran, who called for help, who screamed into the phone while someone watched. Shannon's voice didn't vanish. It echoed through 911 calls, through her mother's protests, through the silence of the community that let her die. Even in death, she wouldn't stop screaming. Rex Hoyerman sits behind bars, charged, awaiting trial, but the beach is still quiet. No signs mark where the bodies were found. No memorials, just sand, wind, and the rustle of marsh grass. Locals don't talk about it much. Reporters come and go. Podcasters pass through. But the people who live there? They know something the rest of us don't. That evil doesn't always die. Sometimes, it waits. Hoyerman might be the killer, or a killer. But the others? They're still out there. Someone knows who they are. Maybe more than one person. Maybe someone still walks those dunes at night, remembering what they did. Remembering the sound of someone begging. Remembering burlap tightening. Gilgo Beach is scarred, not just by murder, but by neglect. By the systems that ignored missing sex workers. By the silence of neighbors. By the fear that comes when monsters look like ordinary men. The waves still come in. The sand still shifts. Time tries to bury it all. But the truth never stays buried. It whispers through cell towers. It floats on the wind. It waits in the marsh. The lost voices of Gilgo Beach aren't lost. They're just waiting for someone to listen.